Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could have the reading of the mission and vision, please.
The Rcs Mission Statement is that Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Vision Statement of Richmond Community Schools is a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Item 2, public hearing. With that, I would like to suspend the meeting of the Board of Trustees, declare the public meeting open. The purpose of this hearing is to offer the public an opportunity for comments and questions regarding the bond projects. Karen Scalf, Chief Financial Officer, will present this information. We will invite questions at the conclusion of each portion of this presentation. Hearing open for public comment. Mrs. Scalf.
Okay, good evening. It will take me just 1 second to get this pulled up.
It's a little bit of a change, didn't we? Used to have motions and stuff like this before?
Big pardon?
Didn't we used to have motions to suspend?
No, actually, you don't really need to, because you're holding the public hearing in your capacity as the governing body of Richmond Community Schools. So it's a special segment of the meeting that has to have certain protocols, which is allowing public speaking, even though the public doesn't have the right to speak at any other aspect of the meeting. You're still acting as the Board of School Trustees.
You want your Robert Rules tag.
You have to do the motion to close it, but not the how we usually do
If I'm honest, Kim said that we needed some help. Do verbal since we're not on TV yet. Or visuals.
I know she does.
Mr. President, preliminarily starting the public hearing, although obviously the numbers are somewhat sparse in the audience, but it would be helpful if people would sign in if they wish to speak and include their address. That way they can be given subsequent information when and if it becomes available.
If we have anyone that would like to speak, please see Mrs. Hbac in the back and sign in. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Are we good?
Okay, so while I get this loaded, I will provide just a brief synopsis on why we have this hearing. And Mr. Cross, I will ask to jump in as needed. But the purpose of this hearing is to provide financial and informational items which are associated with the board's interest and possible determination to take out a bond issuance in 2021. It is for this reason that we must hold 2 public hearings, and each are advertised in our local newspaper to notify the public of these agenda items. So, the other reason that we hold these hearings is so that our public understands the purpose to provide input should they desire to regarding these projects and the possibility of issuing a bond. We do have very specific information that we'll present tonight, and we'll keep moving on that as we go through. So tonight's hearing was published in the Palladium item on April the 2nd, 2021. Ron, do you have anything else to offer on why we're meeting?
A couple of things. We do have the publisher's affidavit, and I've got verification that in fact it was published on April 2nd, which is a proper notice, and that the publisher's affidavit will become a part of the record of these proceedings as well as the transcript. And secondly, we're actually fulfilling 2 statutory purposes tonight. one that we've done in the past derives from what many years ago was House Bill 1028. And it was in the interest of transparency, anytime a public school corporation intended to expend $1 million or more in any building, then it was necessary and required that before you got committed to that project, to explain the project to the public, explain what you intend to do, identify the educational benefits that would flow from the project, and then provide its estimated cost and tax rate impact if it's being financed from the property taxes, which this would be. Due to the nature of this project in particular and its size, we have to do a little, we still have the 1028 obligation, but we also have obligations to conduct 2 public hearings before this board potentially acts to determine to issue bonds to finance a long-term lease to fund the identified project. So in effect, we're fulfilling both those purposes tonight. The first of the 2 preliminary determination hearings, and then in the process complying with and providing the 1028 hearing opportunities. They obviously overlap in this context. So.
Okay, so that is why we are here. I would like to, I have some presentations that we can go over. The board should have at their station the presentations that we'll look at tonight. I do have information for members of the public should they need it or request it. Maybe if I can get this to go.
All right, Keith. Step up.
Let me jump right there. Let me see right there.
So as we get started, I do want to go over the educational need, primarily for the purpose of our public and our school board. As we have conversations looking at our capital needs throughout our buildings, one thing that we have focused on is looking intentionally at Richmond High School and the need for, sorry, I can't type, for improvements there, which we knew were going to be financially more than what our capital projects fund and now our operations fund could handle on its own. And so it is with a lot of diligence and a lot of time that we have meticulously looked at each of these areas of the high school to make sure that what we're doing is not only responsible financially, but it's the best impact for our students and staff at the buildings that we can do. So as we've looked at this project, educationally, it's going to provide a learning environment which is more comfortable. The project itself is primarily focused on mechanical systems, heating, air conditioning, and ventilation throughout the central plant area of the building. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with our buildings, it is a separate building off of the back of the high school near the Tiernan Center and Career Center entrances. And that is where most of these replacements and repairs are going to go into. For our public, most people are not going to see it, but everybody's going to feel it. So that is the piece to this that provides a true difference in our educational offering. It's going to make a more comfortable environment. On the plus side, we hope to see some increased efficiencies and overall improvements to the way that the building functions mechanically. And we'll go through that a little bit more in depth as we move along, as soon as I can get this pulled up. I apologize. Usually. and this may not look right because I'm pulling this up through Google Slides rather than PowerPoints, which is the original. It should be okay, but if anything is formatted funny, I apologize. For those of you at a station, we'll start here with this presentation.
You said we did have these for people.
I do not have those for people. I have informational sheets if anybody should like them. Most of our audience could probably sleep and understand this.
Okay.
Would you like one? Okay, so as we look at what the project is going to entail, it's primarily heat, chillers, and the piping system that goes along with that. Currently, we'll take a look at what we have, and that is a 4-pipe system that is natural gas steam. It is originally, the biggest part of the system was put in 1981. All of the systems are, our very newest system is from 2006. And so they are all nearing or at their end of life. So we are confident that this change is absolutely necessary to maintaining our building appropriately. The chillers are much the same way. The Career Center installation happened between 1982 and 84. Civic Hall and Tiernan Center came in at 1997 with new improvements, and then the main building, we saw an update in 2006. This is a 2-loop chiller system. So what we want to move to throughout this project is we want to replace the boilers. We would like to replace the chillers. We'll replace or repair any piping as it's needed. There is quite a bit of the piping that is okay, so we will leave what we can and we'll replace what needs to be done. And then we will provide the necessary updates which are going to allow us to bring on at a later date other systems in the building which are currently freestanding so that the building is more cohesive and aligns with the mechanical systems better. We estimate project costs at $7.3 million, and issuance costs will be at $200,000 or less. One thing to note as we looked at how to determine why this project was the best fit for this is that we set some project goals, and this was something that we have a facility working group that looked at this, as well as we had Mr. McCurdy is here with us from LWC, and they conducted a HVAC kind of a master study of the entire building. And through this process, the goals that we really wanted to achieve were to see increased environmental comfort for our students and staff. We wanted to increase energy efficiencies and thereby resulting in some utility savings, either in usage amounts or in usage costs. Those sometimes are going to happen for both, but we know that the usage needs are going to be definitely less. And then we'd like to utilize the system which aligns and provides future alignment of all of those separate mechanical systems. The overall result of this is that we're going to reduce annual mechanical maintenance costs right now. I know that on a fairly routine basis, we are hitting costs at near or over $100,000 each year at the high school alone on mechanical costs. So as we update these systems, those should drastically reduce. And as we're able to, the hope and the conversation has been that we could utilize operation funds to continue to bring on some of those separate sections and loop them into this greater central plant area. So those were the goals. We feel like each of those goals can be met with this project. We also feel that financially we have tried to be extremely responsible to the project, to our taxpayers, and to all of the parties involved in being a stakeholder at RCS, but still managing to get the necessary updates made. So we'll go over to the financial side of things, and that's the project itself. Does anyone have questions on that? Need more info? Thoughts? Okay. So on the financial side, we're going to take a look at our tax rates and what this means to that purpose. A bond issuance goes into a debt service fund that we will budget each year. We do not take this lightly. I will make a note that Richmond Community Schools is considered in the lowest 5 schools in the entire state as far as tax rate right now. So we do have one of the lowest debt service rates and overall tax rates in the state. So as we look at where we're at right now, we have a debt service rate of 12.47 cents. This rate, you can see this is where we are over a 10-year period. Right now, those areas in blue are the portion of debt you can see that are going to drop off and move down. You can see also that that line just dictates where our debt is going to move as we look ahead to the future. So I'll draw your attention to the 2021 line to 2022. There's a significant decrease coming right now if all things were considered what they are today. We are aware of that, and we intended to have that flexibility in order to look at projects and future projects. You can see that our debt stair steps, and that is so that the board has the ability, should we need something done at a building, that they can make the decision without it completely skewing is a bad word, but disrupting the tax rate dramatically. So this was our debt plan. We discussed this when we took out 2018 bonds, and again when we took out 2020 bonds, and we all have agreed to this. We're going to look ahead with this issuance. It is going to change our tax rate. It also is going to, it's going to increase our tax rate. That drop now becomes steady. So what is going to happen is we're going to see an increase over what our current level is projected to be for next year of almost 10 cents. However, you will see that our debt ratio and percentage, the net amount of difference is a little over 4 cents. So it is an increase, but it is not, we won't realize the full 10 cents with the rate coming on next year. So are there any questions on that part? Okay, so some things that we need to discuss from the financial side. Because this is a public hearing, we do have legal obligations to provide information to our public regarding what the possibilities are with this bond. We do expect to take out a leasehold bond, and the rules on that are a little bit different than a general obligation bond. The par amounts of the bonds is $7,500,000. That's how much we expect to take out in bonds. The estimated cost of issuance and underwriters discount $200,000, leaving $7.3 million as the proceeds for hard and soft project costs. Our max lease payment for this period is $1.9 million. The maximum final maturity is January 15th, 2032. Now, I will draw attention to our taxpayers that the board has determined that we would like to have these bonds repaid within 7 years. So legally, we have the option to take a leasehold of 12 years, but the board has endeavored to determine that we will likely repay all bonds within 7. So we will shorten up that time frame. Our estimated interest expense is $1,221,750, and the estimated tax rate impact is at a max at 13.05 cents, and the estimated net increase to the tax rate between this year and next year will be 4.59 cents. Does anyone have any questions on that portion? Okay. So some things for our taxpayers. The estimated tax impact for a taxpayer based on the proposed bond issuance, you can see here, on a $100,000 home with a 7-year repayment, we're looking at annually a change of $15.03. Monthly, that is equivalent to $1.25. And then you can see how that changes for tillable acres and different AV assessed values of homes. One thing to note that with circuit breakers being, or circuit breaker tax credits being in existence in the state of Indiana, there are a number of our taxpayers that will see no impact to their tax. So that's just something for everyone to be aware of, and something that we have considered when we've looked at the revenue that will be generated based on this issuance. Okay, so with that, you have all of the information, both financial and of the project. One thing to note for our taxpayers, there is a process in which, should anyone have any kind of question or would like to go about, there is a process for a remonstrance period, which we will provide to the county auditor notification that we are taking out this bond, and the period will start, at which point in time taxpayers have the option to object to any of the project. We do ask that our taxpayers truly think about that, because this is something that we need. It is not something that we have taken lightly, and we are excited for our students and staff to see these improvements. So with that, Mr. Cross, is there anything that I have missed or left out?
No, I think you've covered it.
Okay. Members of the public or board members, any questions, input, thoughts?
I just want to say again, thanks to the working group. I think you guys have put a lot of time into this.
I think we've been focused on checking off the boxes that the statute says we have to present this information, and we missed the bigger picture that this isn't just something idea that you guys came back with after spring break.
Yeah.
You've been working on this, and I think the facilities group, finance group, the education group. I mean, I think this is something that's a product of Jeff, it's probably not an exaggeration to say over a year's planning
And really well before that, because as we incurred the debt from the retirement and all of that was all brewing in the background, and so like all these years it's just been, we've been, okay, we've got to get there, but that high school needs attention, it needs attention desperately, and so it's realizing way more years, I think, back than even.
To add the bigger picture to me is we paid $70,000, or I forget what the cost was for a mechanical study at the high school, a facility study. And we were looking at 15-year plan that would affect our capital budget or operations budget every year for the next 15 years, which would limit other projects, which would limit, it would almost be like we had a severance bond again.
Again, right.
So, part of this eliminates that pressure, moves that schedule up, and since such a large percentage of the work was in the physical plant itself, it just made sense to, let's get this done, let's move forward. And,
Yep. Speed it up.
But-
Speed it up.
But I do think it's important to note that the amount of work and time and thought that you guys put into that, and to build those pieces in that can be connected down the road. So all of those things that, like you said, we don't see, those pieces are there, so 5 more years from now, when we're ready to make the next move, we just plug it in.
Right. And that was part of the disconnect that we had. We really never really had a 5-year or a 10-year capital plan, so we just want to make sure that every year that we're spending money, that it is part of that, as Keith Smith, as part of that plan. Instead of, like the system we have now, we have so many sections of the high school that are independently controlled with standalone systems.
Yes.
Well, not very efficient that way, so. A lot of people have a lot of input into it, so it isn't just one person.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other additional comments, questions?
Invite the public, I think they've been invited, but we make it clear that we will take on public comment at this point.
There will be another hearing, so there'll be another opportunity for public comment. Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Nicole Stoltz,
I'll second.
second by Brad Walton. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes 7-0. Public hearing is closed.
President Weber, if you could excuse me, I have to do this again for our neighboring school corporation in about an hour, so.
We have a neighboring school corporation?
We have several neighboring.
And I will be in touch shortly, as I have some questions for you as well. Thank you.
Yeah, that is Jay Slifer at RCS.
Moving along, public commentary. We have no public commentary tonight. Moving on to item 4, consent items. Approval of minutes and human resources. Mr. Brown?
Again, for consent items tonight, we have 4.01 approval of minutes, 4.02 human resources with the addendum there before you at your seat. So.
I move to approve the consent items with the addendum as presented.
Motion by Aaron Stevens,
I'll second.
second by Keith Moore. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to action items. Action item 5.01, Archon Builders Contract for Professional Services.
All right, thank you. I'll let Mrs. Scalp speak to that.
Good evening. I would like to put before the board the attached documents for the agreement with Archon Builders Ltd. for the RHS second and third floor renovation project. The bids were awarded on April 1st, 2021 at the board meeting. It's my recommendation that tonight the RHS second and third floor renovation agreement with Archon Builders Ltd. be approved as it has been presented.
We have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
So good.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I would move forward with all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Item 5.02, Vail HVAC Maze Contract Approval.
Good evening. Attached is an agreement for professional services provided by Maze Design Inc. at 124 South 8th Street in Richmond. The services are associated with the Vail HVAC upgrades and replacement project. I will note that this project, we are doing design services at this time. Future information will come regarding when we will bid and the information associated with that at a later date. It's my recommendation tonight that the Board of School Trustees approves the agreement for professional services with Maze Design Inc. for Vail HVAC upgrades and replacements as it's been presented.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Suzanne Darengowski,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. 5.03, Vail roof bid recommendation.
Hello again. So the bids for the Vail roof replacement were received and opened on Thursday, April 8th, 2021. The notice to bidders was published in the Palladium item on March 19th and March 26th, 2021. Proof of publication and all bid documents are on file in the business office. The receipt of bid report, or also known as the bid summary, is attached for your information. Tonight, it's the administration's recommendation that the Vail roof replacement bid be awarded to Inslee Systems, Inc. with the low total bid of $444,000 as it's been presented.
I move to accept the roof bid recommendation.
Motion by Nicole Stoltz,
Second.
second by Keith Morey. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Item 5.04, 2021 Summer Athletic Camps.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mops has been working with teachers and with the athletic department for the review process, so I will let him speak to this.
Attached are the RHS Summer School Athletic Camp descriptions for the 2021 school year, or summer. The applications have gone through the appropriate review process. I recommend that the Board of School Trustees approve the camps as presented. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the camp plan.
Motion by Keith Morey,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Item 5.05, 2021 RHS Dennis Middle School and Test Intermediate Athletic Handbooks.
Mr. Mops?
Recommend the Richmond Community Schools Board of Trustees approve the 2021 update to the RHS Athletic Handbook, the Dennis Middle School Athletic Handbook, and the Test Intermediate Athletic Handbook. You'll find an attached list of changes to the current RHS handbook. The listed changes below are a result of collaboration and communication with the coaches, administration, and teachers. I recommend at this time that the Richmond Community Schools Board of Trustees approve the 2021 update to the RHS Athletic Handbook, the Dennis Middle School Handbook, and the Test Intermediate Handbook as presented.
I'll move that we approve all the changes.
Motion by Keith Morey,
Second.
second by Suzanne Darengowski. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. Are we currently asking 7th and 8th graders for physicals?
We are not. That will be new.
That will be new. Okay,
As is grade eligibility. That
Right.
will also be new for 7th and 8th grade.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that was pointed out to, I didn't think we currently did, so, okay, thank you.
There's no requirement that we do so, and I feel that that provides an undue burden on families. And so I think that's something we don't need to ask in the handbook, but that's my personal thoughts.
I would agree with that. And I get why we're doing it, but that's an additional cost to families.
Aren't they offered for a pretty insignificant amount of money?
$10.
Yeah, $10.
I can go either way. The thought is that we are prepping them for high school and the requirements at high school. But I mean, yes, it's a minimal cost, but it's a hassle too. I mean, as a parent, just trying to
Scheduling and
figure
get 'em
out
in.
when the physicals are and getting your kid there and you know, but so, yeah, either way.
Could we look at, I mean, we have an agreement with Reed Physicians Group now. I mean, could we look at a week period at the school system that we provide the physicians
Jennifer
here?
had spoken to that at one point.
They're the ones that provide the, they've done it lots of different ways. It was a longer wait time when they did the site visits, and so now they have multiple locations where you can go in, even to urgent care without an appointment anytime, and do your $10 and do it. And so that is a little more convenient. Last year they didn't do, I don't know if they'll plan on any large group dates. Last year they didn't because of COVID, and so it was, I mean, they still required the physicals. They were just at the multiple sites, around town. They've done it at the orthopedic, center as well, so. But there are multiple locations around town that you can go to anytime.
So would we be able to look into that, especially for this inaugural year?
We have
getting
before,
that.
we can ask them again, because they provide that service to multiple school corporations. Rather than just going to one school, they have used their own sites throughout the city, where they don't have to hone it into a week, that they can just do them at any time.
Well, and the cattle call version is not
Right.
that nice for the students.
No.
It's way better that they would have multiple options and go to the place that's most convenient.
I'm laughing because I did the
Yeah.
cattle call.
But I'm saying,
That's what
that's
I-
not
Oh.
that's not
Oh.
a good solution. It seems like it would be, but it really isn't.
I
I
had a
think
private
multiple
doctor.
possibilities to be able to go to multiple places would be way better.
But remember, physicals is a requirement by the Indiana Athletic Association and is not a diagnostic tool or, we're not kind of, kids aren't going in to see if they're actually fit to play or able to even participate. They're merely going through steps established by the state, and if they get a green light, then they're cleared to play. It doesn't provide any additional liability protection. I think that's Mr. Cross that, and
Is it where do they do any of the concussion baseline
that's a
stuff
different,
there?
that's not part of the physical.
It's not?
That's a different program.
Okay.
And the physicals aren't even administered by physicians at this point. It's nurses and physician assistants, and we're in
But
the
it
past.
is required for the high school.
It's only
Yes.
required at ninth grade, right?
Yes.
9th through 12th.
9th through, right.
So,
But we do have a much fuller slate of middle school programs than some people, so I can see why we would want to start it.
and the
where-
county
when we
schools
start
require, for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yes.
And the concussion protocol is separate.
It's separate.
It's been a request from the athletic department for a long time. We've talked about it before, and looking at the configuration of 7-8 and really kind of building that program as kind of preparing for high school. And again,
Probably a
Mr.
good
Cross
time
said,
to do
it's
it.
not required and it's not a liability, but it also doesn't hurt anything. And it's just, the athletic department liked the idea of just having that extra reassurance, and again, preparing students for high school.
Any other questions or comments?
I would still like to look into, I can appreciate that there's multiple options, but I don't think it would be a bad thing for us to offer some ourselves for after school or,
Yeah.
I don't think that would be a bad option
Yeah.
for us to do.
I mean, we can ask again.
I think
To see if
another
they would
factor
consider
to
that.
keep in mind is the fact that with middle schoolers, they don't have driver's license. They are completely dependent upon, their guardian to get them to this physical location. Whereas, high schoolers, a lot of times, even if it's an underclassman, they can bum a ride from a friend. And because we do
Well, aren't
have
they-
guardians who will not get their kids to go get a physical.
Aren't
No,
they
that's
gonna-
not
They
fair
have to get them to
them.
practice.
Aren't they gonna get them to and from practice every day
Right,
too?
that's what I was
Well,
saying.
but some of them are just located at the school and they're able to go right
Stay
after.
Yeah.
I just
The
don't
cattle
want
call
to fault any
physicals are-
kids for something that the guardian's not
So,
wanting to do.
I guess my question would be, John, if you say a physician isn't doing it, can we have a school nurse?
The physician signs
Operate.
off on the form, but they are just going on what the report says.
So,
They're not exactly examining the students.
again, so what, could we pay our school nurses for extra 3 hours and have them stay after one day at one school, and anybody that needs them, just come get them. I'm asking, I don't know. That seems like a pretty reasonable result. Or
The current physicals, I mean, provided by Reed are signed by a physician. I don't know that our nurse can sign the physical form legally. We'd have to look into that.
So, yeah, basically, it sounds like, are we wanting to maybe look into some other options? Is that what
or
we're
potentially
saying?
provide, what do people think about saying if you have free and reduced lunch, we'll cover it? I don't know what that would look like.
Yeah, I mean, I see both sides, I really do. And, you know, as a parent, I'm sitting there thinking if my child had an irregular heartbeat or something like that, and I hadn't noticed it, and here's one more step that could possibly get, but I'm not exactly sure what's involved in the physical. I've become a little more confused about that. So,
You're
Again, this has been-
pretty brief.
Again, this has been a long time request of the athletic
Yep.
department. So I'm bringing this as just upholding their request, and that is the recommendation.
Haven't we already approved it?
Yep, we voted in second it.
But,
We haven't voted yet.
oh, we haven't voted, we just, okay.
What do we want to do?
There is a
If we
motion
need
and
more
second on
time,
the
we can
table.
always pull it. I mean,
Well, we could also approve it and then continue a conversation that says, hey, this is how we want to support it,
And then add it
to help families who are having trouble with that.
I'm happy with the
That's
idea
better
of having
solution.
it in place, and again, I love the idea of transitioning and getting the kids used to, okay, this is how it works, you know, at the high school. I would like to look at ways we could facilitate it, you know, make it easier for everyone involved, especially initially, you know, because it's kind of, we're segueing them in, and we don't want to just be like, all right, well, here's how it works, you're big kids now, because they're not yet.
And that is part of the timing of bringing this in April, so that we have the time to, you know, explore those things and communicate and get ready for that when it does take place, which is usually, you know, late summer.
So,
But
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I guess what I like it is that it puts the onus, like by approving it tonight, it puts the onus on us. So if we dink around and we don't do anything with it, then the athletic office, who has asked for this for a number of years, is not held up or unable to do stuff because we haven't come up with a solution.
I would think if we're looking for relief from the burden of the $10 for parents, the athletic office would have trouble coming up with those dollars. If we want to look at other ways to pay for it, I think that's another discussion.
During discussion, Mr. Cook said that there would be funds available for those who could not afford it.
Because I know that their budget has been
I'd
hit
I'd
hard
like
this year.
Keith's suggestion. I think we can move forward with it and approve it, but I think we can still have that discussion to fine tune it.
And I think maybe the other question is put it out there is there a doctor who would be willing to sign off on one of our nurses? I don't know. I don't know how that would work. I don't know how it works now.
I can't speak for our nurses and what their specialty is and what's required, that if they would have, you know,
Yeah, I
additional
don't-
training required to be able to do that, so
Mhm.
that I don't know, I'd have to look
Right.
into it.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion passes
So
6-1.
long, when's the last vaccination? I can't even remember that. When's the last vaccination that your kids received?
Yeah, I got one this year.
12th grade,
12th.
Is that
yeah.
12th grade?
and then college.
See,
They come up with all this new stuff.
It never
when
ends.
they hit the 30s, you forget about that long.
I think there's a big bunch in sixth grade.
It's usually 6th grade and then 12th.
All right, good discussion. Thank you all. Next item, item 5.06, Leader in Me Vail Annual Approval.
Good evening. The attached attached document outlines the services provided to Vail Elementary for a Leader in Me. It's training, coaching, and materials offered by Franklin Covey. The program is outlined in the agreement, and this is year 3 that they will be working on that. This program is funded by generous donation from Mr. and Mrs. George Clinton. And this year, they have determined to provide more funding to cover the expenses associated with this program. So we cannot thank them enough for their continued support of Vail and the work that's occurring there. So tonight, it is my recommendation that the board approves the request to accept the agreement with Franklin Covey for Leader in Me at Vail Elementary.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Brad Walton,
I'll second.
second by Keith Morey. Any questions or comments?
Other than just to echo that, super grateful.
Yeah. Thank you to the Clintons.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Any others? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Policy review and update. Policy 6.01, or item 6.01, policy 8600, staff student participation in community events, second reading. We also have policy 5710, if someone wanted to group those.
I would like to make a motion to approve policy 8600 and policy 5710.
Motion to combine 6.01 and 6.02 by Brad Walton.
Second.
Second by Jeff Schleifer. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Next item, 6.03, policy 4830, student fundraising, first reading.
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 4830 and policy 4850 to second reading. To move them to second reading.
Second.
Motion by Brad Walton, second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to work session. 7.01, proposed superintendent search timeline.
Did you get 4850?
Yeah, we
Did you combine?
combined
It
them.
was a combined.
Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Claypool. Just to keep us honest.
I missed that somehow.
It's a work session topic. Stoltz, did you have any, do we want to do an update on superintendent search?
Yes, well, we've been consistently hitting our timeline goals in regards to the superintendent search, and just wanted to look at some, our proposed timeline for moving forward. We are looking at the contract right now, just trying to get that in order and wanting to post that. John, I had sent you a text about posting that today. Is that, are we still good on that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we will, the contract, we would like to advertise it possibly as soon as Friday.
Okay,
For a public hearing on it, then would be the next board meeting
on the 28th.
on the 28th.
Okay,
But,
yep.
but those dates could slip. Contract.
Just after I said we've been consistently hitting our timeline goals.
Yeah, well, I guess it'd be my fault then.
No. So, yeah, so let's open it up for any questions or,
Well, once we agree on that, we need to, let's say it goes on Friday, it has to be posted for 10 days. Is that
Yes.
correct?
It'd go in the paper, possibly Friday, and I mean, Mr. Cross he may be busy, things could slip, but that would allow us then to have a public hearing at the April 28th meeting,
Okay.
of which then the public could have input on the contract. After then, we have to wait a minimum of 7 days before taking action on the contract. So we could possibly have a special meeting. Our next regularly scheduled meeting would be May 12th, where we could take action on that.
Yep. So yeah, we would need to decide if we'd want to do a special meeting before the 12th. So, something to think about.
The idea is to have the superintendent's contract start July 1, and then possibly have an earlier on-site date if things can be arranged.
And that's so that it matches all the other administrative contracts, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So
That was a request
superintendent's
by
contract would start
administration.
same time as all the other administrators,
Yes.
which makes sense.
But we'd like to have an earlier
Right.
implementation date in order to have some
So
connections.
that would be prorated for that earlier,
Right,
yeah.
right. So have some connections with the administrators before they are gone for the summer.
Yeah, take some much-needed vacation time.
Especially this year.
Mhm.
But yeah, we had, really good candidates, and we look forward to bringing a new superintendent in.
I think that sounds appropriate, and I don't know,
I'm
what's,
fine with doing a special meeting too to expedite the process.
yeah, I could do it, or I don't know,
Especially
is
since
it
we wanna try to
necessary,
get
or?
early implementation before.
A special meeting gives us the opportunity to focus on the new person,
Mm.
possibly have maybe a session with the central office beforehand, maybe something for the public afterward. I mean, it gives us a little more flexibility.
Yeah, we'd especially like to introduce the finalists to central office
Yeah,
prior to the board meeting.
But,
What were you saying, Brad? I couldn't quite hear you.
I said I'm fine with doing a special meeting so we can expedite the process to
Okay.
the early implementation.
Okay.
is our thought that we would do that on the 5th then?
Does that work for people?
Possibly. I'd have to double check with Ron to make sure that that's a full 7 days.
Passed.
So if we'd have pass the hearing on the 28th,
Okay, so if we did it at 5:45,
possibly.
we could do it, that'd be a full 7 days, and a whole extra 15 minutes.
Unless they're business days.
Right, I don't know.
So
Okay,
we'll just
so
have-
we got some technicalities to figure out. But if worse comes to worse, it doesn't sound like it's overly problematic if it just went on the 12th.
No.
I mean, it would be
That still gives
squeezing
us-
more stuff in, but, yeah. Okay,
But just keep in mind, this timeline is only a discussion from our side.
Yes.
sure.
It's, to use our favorite word, fluid.
Well, I just, there could be some hiccups and.
None of which would be, I mean, this timeline's very aggressive, and so it's what we would like ideally, but if we would miss one of these key dates, that in no way indicates that things have gone wrong. It just, Mr. Cross has work to do, and he's a busy man and has lots of other responsibilities, and so we have to kind of rely on his schedule and then our own getting our stuff to him in a timely manner. Anything else? All right. Moving on to board reports and old business. Anyone? Board reports? Okay. Moving on to preview of upcoming meetings and events.
All right. So kindergarten and preschool registration will be taking place next Thursday. That's April the 22nd, from 3:30 to 6:30 at all of our elementary schools. Also, you may see some things on social media as well. With the nicer weather, the elementary classes have been taking field trips to Cope Environmental Center or are planning to do so. And we have students that have started practicing for the upcoming Boston Run. Boston Run is a long standing tradition with Richmond Community Schools. It usually takes place in the fall. We made the decision to push it back to May in hopes that we would be able to have the event this year, and so it's looking promising that that's going to be a go. So we appreciate our elementary PE teachers, Ryan Higgins, Nate Trewick, and Bob Kelsick for helping organize and lead this, and as well as Mallory Hill and Steve Jones. They're the principals that have kind of co-teamed to help support the PE teachers and hold this event. So we're looking forward to that. Students also begin iLearn testing next week. And we have dentist and test families will be participating in Title I Family Nights next week. Families are asked to join nightly on Facebook at 6 o'clock to discuss family-friendly ideas. And to wrap up the week, on Friday, April 23rd, the first 50 families that swing by test or dentist from 4 to 6 will receive ingredients to make their own family meal. So, and Chartwell's is assisting with that. So Chartwell's Discovery Kitchen, we heard a little bit about that last month. They are going to be visiting Fairview Elementary cafeteria next week. Also, the Richmond High School will have their free prom store. That's going to be open this Saturday, April 17th. And RHS students can come and pick up dresses, shoes, and accessories for free.
Is that something that folks take donations for?
Yes.
So how
some
would
suits that
they
don't fit.
do those donations? How would they?
They just
Oh, yeah.
contact the high school, and it's
This way I might.
usually run through the life skills teacher. I think have helped organize that in the past.
Great, thanks.
They provide some interview apparel too, or is that a different?
I think that's a different.
Okay.
It's the same.
Is it the same? Okay.
So
I thought it
we
was
have
different.
dress shirts and suits and things for boys also at that location. So it's not just dresses.
Thank you.
Do they have prom attire for males as well, or is it just?
I don't think it's tuxedos, but I mean, they have
shirts and ties.
Yeah, shirts
Okay.
and ties.
Thank you.
All right.
Were you done?
Yeah, I mean, I have the bell ringer stuff,
Okay,
but
yeah,
that's just the upcoming.
Sorry, I jumped in there because
No, you're fine. That was upcoming.
I wanted to
minutes.
check on that.
Yep, go ahead.
That was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adjournment and bell ringer.
Okay. I mentioned the Title I Family Nights at Test and Dentist next week. The elementary district Title I Math and Science virtual event is this week, so you'll see some that, and I emailed you the information with the links as well. You also may have heard or mention of the RCS construction class students helped out at Mary Scott Community Orchard this week. They installed posts that will support the fruit trees and prepped other parts of the site. So we thank them for their contribution to the new Mary Scott Community Orchard. So our next board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April the 28th at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the cause? Meeting adjourned.